So I wanted to do this video talking about the metagame right now because I've been doing a lot of testing on dueling books since the ban list dropped on Sunday, and it was legal Monday. And I gotta tell you guys, man, the format is pretty freaking toxic. Now, everyone's gonna say the format's balanced, you're crazy. I can finally play my piece of shit deck from like 5 years ago and it's somewhat decent again. I'm here to tell you guys you're wrong. A lot of the stuff I'm seeing on dueling book, I'm pretty sure you're gonna start seeing at your local near you. And I just want to give you guys a few tips and tricks what I've noticed about a metagame. Number one thing I'm noticing about the current metagame, you need the Mochamis. Now, obviously, this was known, which is why Konami reprinted them twice. Perulia, which I think is going to be the most important Mochami going into the national season, is currently sitting at like 29, 30 bucks. And I highly recommend everybody who's planning on playing competitive or if you just want to go to locals, pick them up while you can. I'm planning on picking mine up today, hopefully. My boy still got them. And the reason why I think this card is really important to pick up is because a lot of decks playing Perulia. Mitsurugi Raizo, Pure Raizo, pretty much at best, you're going to draw one card. At worst, you draw nothing. And very few decks can play under Perulia, but it's going to be a really good card. Meows, you need it for your Malice matchup. You're going to need it for Mementos. I just played a game against Mementos on Duelable right now, and we made the game 3. I drew no hand traps, and then he just FTK'd. Speaking of FTKs, this format we're going into has a ton of FTK decks. Now, you guys don't know, what are FTK decks, Chris? FTK decks is an acronym standing for first turn kill. So not only do we have decks like Mementos that are essentially a first turn kill, it's not technically winning you the game when they combo off, but they put up so many interruptions, there's not really much you can do. The deck was already insane pre-ban list, which is why the guy, Pascal, I think his name was, won YCS Houston, the one I attended to. And the deck was insane during that metagame because he figured out the goo, as the people say nowadays, and showed people how to play the deck properly and took it to the top tables and topped and actually won the YCS. And even if he didn't win the YCS, getting second or even top 8 in YCS is still an accomplishment with a deck that was quote-unquote rogue in a quote-unquote toxic metagame. And I say quote-unquote because if a guy like that can, and I say a guy like that the nicest way possible, meaning a guy who's playing a rogue deck, that is, nothing against him personally, but I don't know the guy, never met the guy, never spoke to the guy. So don't take my words and twist them because people on YouTube like to do that. But if a guy can take a rogue deck, play it well, win a YCS, in a format where Abyss Dweller is legal, what the hell do y'all think is going to happen when Abyss Dweller gets hit? Think about it, y'all. The floodgates are down, and I'm seeing tons of graveyard decks that originally would have gotten checked by Dweller in a competitive tournament run rampant. Mementos is one of the decks. Tearlaments, bro. That deck is so freaking annoying. And people might say, well, you're salty because you're getting cooked by it and them decks are fair. I don't think they're that fair. Like, bro, anytime a deck can play your opponent's turn, it's not fair. People said the Raizo deck was toxic as hell, and I agree it was toxic, but it has so many silver bullets if you're playing like regular Raizo. The real issue was Fiendsmith Raizo, let's be real, but Konami, being as scummy as they are, pretty much left the Fiendsmith stuff unchecked. And that, speaking of Fiendsmith stuff, that goes to my other thing I want to talk about for the current metagame. Every deck damn near having the option to bridge into Fiendsmith stuff is so freaking annoying, bro. I'm literally playing tons of games, and my opponent has 2 monsters on board. Go Moon, go Requiem, full Fiendsmith combo. Not granted, the Fiendsmith stuff been around for a while now, and while I am playing a Raizo deck, I am conscious that everyone who's not playing Raizo, and I'm not even playing the best version of Raizo, that's left to be unknown. I think Pure is better than Fiendsmith personally, but I think Mitsurugi, since they already play limited Raizo names anyway, is going to be the best build moving forward, which is why I'm telling you guys, pick up the Perulias now. They're going to be very important for that matchup. You want to have it because they're a good chance your opponent's going to ritual someone from the hand. They don't really set someone from the deck like that unless they're doing the ritual spell from the deck, and even then, it's going to be rare because they might break on the ritual stuff and have to open their hand anyway. So, I'm seeing that deck just pop off and go crazy. But, once again, Perulias, you guys need to pick it up. And I'm seeing like a lot of just graveyard decks go ham. Another deck you guys got to worry about as well, Tachyon, Catapult Turtle, FTK. Now, I haven't played against it personally, but I've seen it online, and it's a really annoying deck. And this deck is a real FTK. They burn you with Catapult Turtle. Konami didn't really touch that because they want to sell 7 Tachyon. I guess they want to promote the avenues of that specific deck. But at least until Alliance Insight comes out, because I think once Alliance Insight comes out, these decks get a little checked based on OCG history, but TCG is going to spice it up a tad bit, considering the fact that we get more Mitsurugi support. And if the Mitsurugi support is what the leaks were, which they essentially get their own version of Senju with 1,000 hands as a ritual monster from deck to hand, bruh, it's going to give people a headache. Like I said, I'm playing online a lot, just testing just to go to locals, and I guess pre-testing for nationals, which is like 3 months from now. But I guess I got to tell you guys, man, this format's going to be rough for you guys playing rogue decks, and you guys got to prepare for it. Have the Mochamis. If you don't have them, you got to get them. You should have Fuwalos. Fuwalos got reprinted as a super rare and an ultra rare in Stampede. Get your Fuwalos. Every deck should be main deck in 3. Dro damn near has to be in every deck now. And on top of that, even if you have all of these things going on, if you don't up your hand traps, you lose. Like literally, even when people play against me, like with my just pure Rise, if I set up a board of Detonator, Star Leech, if I get lucky enough to open up Solemn Judgment with Cross on board, it's a good chance you're guaranteed to lose a good 80% of the time. So people might be saying, well, Chris, why are you complaining about the metagame when your deck does toxic stuff as well? Compare my deck, which just sets up a boss monster that just says, hey, detach 1, pop a card on the board. That has 1,001 outs to it easily. Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse, etc., etc. Versus some shit like Mementos that goes full, or White Forest. This is not just Memento. It could be White Forest, it could be Mr. Rizal. Hell, it could be things with Rizal when they do pop off. Set up a layered board of multiple interruptions. You're just like, yeah, Konami, why didn't you hit Fiendsmith? This is really dumb. I see why the OCG hit the Fiendsmith. I'm just like, yeah. I had a game against Yugioh last night, and the Yugioh guy, we're going back and forth, mano-y-mano, and he just, I drove him. He played on a drove. He bridged into freaking Fiendsmith stuff, came back, and I'm like, okay, Yugioh's pretty dumb. And since I don't have a build order to worry about, the floodgates get opened back up. So I predict everyone who was happy about this ban list is going to be shortly and soon, very soon rather, get annoyed with the current format, because as somebody who's playing constantly online, I'm getting a little annoyed with it, even though I did decent. Like, yeah, locals in my deck ain't really doing bad. Like, just looking at my duel records online, like, out of like 10 or 11 duels, I lost 4 of them. So my ratio, my Rise deck is still up, and that can go between things from the quality of the player I'm playing against and or the quality of the decks, things like that. Good hands versus bad hands. People getting lucky with the luck set cards, like talents and things like that. However, I just predict, honestly, this format's going to be dumb and people are going to hate it. All right, guys, like I was saying, I got a little briefly interrupted. So, yeah, the format's going to be nutty. Be prepared to get annoyed with it. And like I said, outside of Mementos and Tearlaments just being nutty decks that can just pop off. Now, granted, those decks take skill. Some people say, oh, well, they kind of brick. They're bricking. No, they're not. Like, every time I play against these decks, they're all gas, no breaks. Like, even decks like Branded Despia goes unchecked now, which that deck takes a lot of skill, but they can lock you out of your extra deck 90% of the time. You guys also have to worry about in the current metagame, Fiendsmith Kashtira, which, once again, Fiendsmith should have got hit. The Kashtira engine is dumb. Fiendsmith engine is dumb. Combine them both together. You have a really good control-based deck in a format where the decks that Konami promoted to us to pick up for the current block, essentially, got underpowered, that being Malice and Rizal. Malice and Rizal. And even though you can play versions of those decks, I think, honestly, hitting Rizal to the point where they hit it and hitting Malice, it gives these other decks a lot more power and flexibility to play. However, with that being said, while those decks are powerful at the same time now, I feel like they have a little bit too much edge over the current newer decks. And maybe with Alliance Insight coming out, maybe Konami's going to drop some new, never before seen world premiere cards for Rizal and Malice that just banks the decks nutty as hell. And honestly, I'm not making this video to complain about the format. I just predict, because I'm going to grind it out. Like, that's just me personally. But I know a lot of you Yu-Gi-Oh players. I literally predict within a week or two. I could be wrong that people are gonna be like, man, I hate this format. I hate Cash Tier. I hate the Fiend's stuff. It should have went. It should have left. I hate Blue Eyes. And that's another topic too. Blue Eyes, bro. Primite engine, recycling, over constantly. That's cool to be legal, but Malice got hit. The deck is broken, but going second and going to game 2 and 3 has a hard time. Rizo got hit. That's probably the most fairest meta deck we had in a long time. Even though people say it's oppressive, I get it. Detonator is a thing, and you have to draw your floodgates to out it. And even in decks that can't out floodgates, in the mirror match, go EXT, Ag, they're your detonator right there. So I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's just bias, and maybe you guys might disagree with me. I just think the current metagame, I'm not gonna say it's bad. It's just annoying, and that's just because I'm playing a meta deck, and I'm just like, this sucks. I don't want to fork out money for the Mitsurugi cards, even though I definitely can, because I want to play Pure, and Pure is doing me decent. But it just feels like so underpowered compared to the other Pure decks in the room, and I guess that's where my biggest complaint that is for the format is, because I don't want to have to be forced to play a mixed deck like Mitsu Raizu or Fiends with Raizu when Mitsurugi truthfully should be in his own deck, and the Fiendsmith stuff should be his own deck. But now Fiendsmith is going to get splashed with Cash Tears and be a good anti-meta deck for people who want to play that, go that route. And maybe it gets checked by other decks in the game, and it's like circle. But I think the format is definitely the Wild Wild West right now. I see Blue Eyes doing really good as well because the deck just went unscathed, untouched, and yeah, man. I think honestly, if I was to give you guys like a best decks of the format right now, just off my first couple days of testing and even going to locals, obviously Ryzel's still good, Malice still good. I would put those Ryzel and Malice at the bottom tier of the best decks right now. I would put Blue Eye. I would put them on the same level as Blue Eyes personally. I think Fiendsmith Cash has so much gas, it's really good. I think a deck like Tier Elements is going to come out and blow people out of the water. Like I'm seeing on DB Grinder, I'm seeing it a lot on Dueling Book where they don't run hand traps and they have so much gas and do so much stuff in a turn, they can just break through boards like a hot knife through butter. Now, I don't know how their Malice matchup is, but the Ryzel matchup, just watching test games online, like, bro, it's damn near free for them, honestly. Depending on what kind of hand they get. And, like, you need, like, the good hand traps, like the Fualos, the Perulias. You need all of that shit to kind of combat it. And then on top of that, too, like I said, Mementos, like, that deck, bro, if that deck gets to play, you're cooked. 90% of the time, you're cooked. And you're gonna feel like the deck's unfair because once they play, it's just like with White Forest, once they pop off full combo, if your opponent knows what they're doing, how do you beat that? Same thing with Odeon. They pop off full combo, you don't have any hand traps, how do you beat that? People say, oh, you can go battle phase, evenly match. You have to draw the evenly match too, you know that, right? So I'm just saying, guys, be prepared to get annoyed with the format. Don't mean to be bearer of bad news. Grind it out, though, like I am. I could be wrong. I'm just giving you guys my first week format synopsis of what I think the metagame's looking like. And yeah, like I said, I could be wrong. I'm not God. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm just giving you guys my own personal experience and grievances and frustrations with how annoyed I am with the current metagame that everyone is glazing right now. But when you really look at it at its core, the best decks that was kind of keeping goofy decks in check got neutered a little bit. Now the goofy decks are in check, are back in the rotation, and we have more variety of decks, but those decks really don't promote healthy gameplay. At least for what it's worth, Pure Ryzel. I'm not going to say Fiendsmith Ryzel. Pure Ryzel, you have to draw your outs, but it's much easier to play with and play versus a deck like a Tier Elements when they get to play Memento, White Forest, things like that. And Malice is like I said, you got to draw the Silver Bullet. I agree with Malice. I don't like Malice that much, but even then, if you draw hand traps and they kind of brick on like all bestials, they're kind of cooked. So let me know what you guys think, man. Are you guys enjoying the current metagame? Let me know. It's your boy Rogue, and I'm signing out. Peace. Like I said, I could be wrong. Feel free to roast me in the comments, but peace.